a program that knows a thing or two about recruiting. About Alabama, I think everybody wanted to know what it was going to look like under Kalen DeBoer, absent Nick Saban. You talk about one of the best runs ever in college football, if not the best run ever in college football. To break it all down, we're going to throw to Brett Greenberg of Bama247.com.
The fireworks in February seem to be all but over across the country, and that certainly seems to be the case if you're an Alabama fan who saw Kalen DeBoer, general manager Courtney Morgan, and the rest of the staff put together one of the best classes in the country in less than a year's time. You saw all these guys waste no time, put pen to paper in December. Now you're looking at a lot of early enrollees who've been in town since early January. Keelan Russell, Michael Carroll, Dijon Lee. That's a trio of 5 stars to name a few. Plenty of others in town as well. A couple others getting to town in the summer. But you look up and down this class, and like I said on this show in December, wasn't a lot of holes remaining. Alabama addressed one of those key holes in a flip from Derek Meadows. Bishop Gorman, receiver, 6'5" from LSU. He flips on signing day in December. But this staff, addresses a lot of key needs, and there's a whole lot of talent coming to Tuscaloosa, and a whole lot of talent that's been in Tuscaloosa already getting a kickstart in their college career.
Thanks to Brett, or as we like to call him over here, Baby Goat. Guys, man, I love Brett Greenberg. I appreciate him jumping in. Drew, I want to start with you. Alabama, a lot of expectations, obviously absent of Nick Saban. Just break it down for me, your summary of Kalen DeBoer's first year at the helm in Tuscaloosa, some of the things and your biggest takeaways.
I mean, number 4 ranked recruiting class, and you look at the top half, this looks like a group that Nick Saban would have assembled. Now it's been pieced together a little bit differently. Nick Saban was right in Alabama's backyard. You saw him in Florida. You saw him in Georgia, Mississippi, Texas. That was kind of the bread and butter. Kalen DeBoer leaning on the West Coast ties and roots. I mean, this is a guy that was at Washington, a lot of West Coast talent. I really like this recruiting class. It has a ton of star power, right? 9 prospects that finished inside the top 100 for us. Keelan Russell, number 2 QB, number 2 overall. He's at the top of the list. You also got Michael Carroll, number 1 interior offensive lineman. Dijon Lee, number 2 corner. Ivan Taylor, number 2 safety. Chuck McDonald, Derek Meadows, Justin Hill, A.K. Deere, the running back. That's our number 2 ranked running back. There's some star power for sure. My question kind of, Cooper, where I get a little, concerned, just kind of the depth, right? The back end of that recruiting class. And Alabama has lost a lot through the transfer portal, right? That's the lane you're swimming in here. You look back to their 2024 recruiting class, 8 of those guys are already gone. You look at the 2023 recruiting class, 11 of those guys are gone. So Alabama has some star power. I just worry about the depth, and in an era where you could potentially play 13, 14, 15, 16 games, you got to have the bodies to make a run down the stretch.
Yeah, I think the interesting point, and kind of I'm glad they're in the same neighborhood, but it's, we brought it up a little bit earlier in the season. They only took 2 players from the state of Alabama. Now, it depends on the year, what that looks like. Not everybody can play at Alabama. We certainly understood that in the Nick Saban era as well. But 7 from California. And guess what? California has been really good to Alabama. You think about Xavier Brown. You think about Damani Jackson, Chuck McDonald now coming over. Dijon Lee, arguably your favorite player in the entire cycle. So you would understand that. What's it going to look like year in and year out? That's going to be fascinating. Tom, I'll turn it over to you. Kind of interested to get your take. The first year, like I said, with a new head coach, there hasn't been a lot of change in Tuscaloosa for a really long time. You got to go all the way back to 2007 when Nick Saban took over. What's it been like over the last 12 months, and what's been the pulse from the recruits hearing from this new staff?
Behind the scenes, a guy you know well, Courtney Morgan, Aaron Hodges, Jatavis Sanders. That staff is doing a tremendous job. I went up there for the first time earlier this year to kind of get a feel. I was very spoiled. I went to Alabama, Georgia, one of the greatest games I could have possibly seen. It was incredible. But I got a peek behind the curtain a little bit about how they do things. And I know you did as well, Coop. It was very, very impressive. I see why. I mean, obviously, yes, championships, all that stuff. I see why people go to school there and want to play ball there. It's special inside that building. And it's an elite group. They care about relationships. They do a really good job of really connecting with these guys. And I mean, I think the future's bright. I said it last year. I'm not sure why people expected too much of a drop-off. Yes, it's not Nick Saban. It's not his staff. It's not his coaches. It's not his players. But I think Kalen DeBoer what he's doing is really just scratching the surface for how impressive things are going to be. But I really wanted to touch on real quickly about when you brought up some of the guys in the class and how impressive this group, and we're talking number 4 overall, the guys that they lost. If you would have added Ty Haywood, Caleb Cunningham, Jamie French, Javion Hilson, Dawson Merritt, Zion Grady, and Derek Smith to this group, all guys that decommitted but were once committed to Alabama. I mean, obviously, yes, some of these guys wouldn't have ended up there, but I mean, they're clearly recruiting the right guys. They're clearly moving the needle, but just got to close the door. And this class could have been, instead of like really, really good, it could have been incredible or special.
Drew, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, pun intended, when we're talking about the Crimson Tide, but you think about the quarterback position. And nobody's really talking about it. I get it. You know, Jalen Milroe is not a perfect prospect when you project him to Sundays, but I mean, we're talking about a really, really productive piece of Alabama's offense over the last couple of years. Now he's gone. He's off to Sundays. Ty Simpson's never started a game. Austin Mack's never started a game. And now you got Keelan Russell, who I think all three of us on this set and the rest of the 24/7 Sports contingent all feel very convicted in, can be a really, really special talent. When you look at that room, how do you think this is going to play out? Because I might be one of the only guys thinking, or maybe I'm not, but I think Keelan Russell's got a shot to come in and maybe play early here.
I would agree. I mean, is he the week 1 starter? I don't know. I think the Ryan Grubb, him coming back to Tuscaloosa, really just makes this whole thing interesting. Remember Ryan Grubb, when he was at Washington with Kalen DeBoer, Austin Mack is the guy that they handpicked and had him jump a recruiting class, move in, come early, show up there and be a member of the Huskies. So, we have not heard much about Austin Mack really since he's arrived in Tuscaloosa. We haven't seen anything from him in terms of on-field contacts. I don't know how it's going to play out. Keelan Russell is the name that I kind of keep coming back to, though. He's a natural playmaker for the position. You think about Michael Penix when he was at Washington, when he was with Ryan Grubb. Hey, they wanted to throw it at a high clip. They needed a quarterback that could move around and was extremely accurate. Doesn't this feel like I'm describing what Keelan Russell is? You ask him to make that throw, he's going to do it. He doesn't put the football on the ground. He's a high percentage passer. He can dance. He can create some magic. He also wants to win from the pocket. So I just think the marriage between Ryan Grubb and Keelan Russell, it just makes so much sense to me.
I think one thing that, and you've been in these offices, you've been in these buildings, the one thing you can't truly evaluate, you could see the arm strength, you could see the talent, you could see the accuracy, but you can't really tell how they're wired until you see them on the field. And one thing that's different about Keelan Russell and also Bryce Underwood, Tavian St. Clair, the trio at the top, they are wired so different. They are wired right. They are ready for the moment. They're not going to get inside their respective stadiums and be too nervous and see the bright lights and freak out. So, yes, if Keelan Russell, which I do believe he could be the day 1 starter at Alabama, he's wired the right way, it would not shock me at all. I think he's got a tremendous career ahead of him, and I think it's going to start early this fall.
Sneaky year 2 coming up for Kalen DeBoer, where they got to get it right, and the quarterback position, we'll see. Talented, but they got to get it figured out. Guys, for more Alabama coverage, make sure to check out Bama247.com.